Traditional strategies, they don't work anymore.
AI is making decisions faster than we can understand them.
Everyone's selling answers. Nobody has the truth.
Disruption isn't coming. It's already here.
Who's willing to cut through the bullshit?
Outwired.
Welcome to the final episode of Outwired for the year. Did that intro stutter for you guys again? Or did it play well this time?
It didn't on my end.
It didn't play well, or it didn't stutter?
It did not stutter.
Okay, good. It was fine on social media. I went and looked at it on LinkedIn after you guys said it stuttered, and it was fine. It was playing great. So is that a good intro now that you guys have seen it for the first time, non-stuttering?
I got the same stuttering.
Yours was still stuttering?
No, it did it for me again, too. I don't know.
Oh, well, you'll have to go watch it on social media. Anyway. It's a really good intro. I like it. So Claude wrote it. Claude wrote the whole thing with my help.
Cool.
So, okay. Thank you. Welcome for another episode of Outwired. I want to start by this episode because we always start by talking about something crazy that no one expects us to talk about. I just want to talk directly to the shareholders of Adobe first. Like, what the fuck is going on with Adobe and ChatGPT? Like, does anybody really think that Adobe's going to survive this shit? Ari, you go first and tell me.
I think with enough money and just enough, or even a few people in position of power, anybody can pivot these days. Now, these things are like icebergs. So do I think a company is like that probably basically just lived on like forcing people to use tools that only special wizards knew how to get the layers and the rasterization. Like that was the business model. Do I think that they could adapt? Absolutely, because they got a ton of cash and a ton of partners. Do I think they will? Probably not. I think they'll probably just like keep trying to milk the existing business model and then just sort of ride the wave down as they collect less and less money, but still enough to incentivize the executives who are collecting those paychecks, and the shareholders are kind of, will get screwed in the wash. So I think it's highly unlikely, but I definitely think they could.
I think their stock's down like $200 this year or some shit like that. I was watching it today.
I'll give them a quick answer. Here's your 15-second solution, Adobe. Take a ridiculous pile of cash and become an expert in building language models that are explicitly focused on image gen. Buy Mid-Journey, like steal people from Stability, like just get into your own field so that you're not like dependent upon some other provider to give you what is going to be the central nervous system of your entire company if it isn't already.
I don't know if they can beat Google. Like, I don't know, but either way, my point is
they got to try.
Yeah, I mean, the future is not that clunky app shit that they're trying to throw in ChatGPT now, is my point. Like, oh, Adobe Photoshop is here. Now you can edit, like I can already do that with a prompt in Gemini, and now ChatGPT Image 1.5 that came out yesterday. What are you adding to the equation here? I don't.
Yeah, in the current world, it's or in the way that they currently function, that's a hard question to answer. But there's a ton of value to be added to the ecosystem. It's just they'd have to be willing to really shift. Like when I was at Microsoft early 2000s, like Bill Gates like kind of placed a huge bet on like just shifting to this whole .com world. He had to get off. That was like proprietary, like component object model. Like just there was a certain way of developing stuff that was not anticipating like wide communication with like external systems that were not in its ecosystem. And he went in on it hard, and it hugely paid off, but it was a big risky move. And you have to have somebody at the top that's willing to say, we're turning this whole train in another direction. And that I doubt that exists in most companies, honestly.
No, especially not at that size and scale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they've been doing the same thing forever. I think, like, just billing people to use their special tools that I don't think people really are going to need much. Increasingly need less. and very
I
rapid.
mean, they'll need those actions to happen, but they'll be able to prompt it with their voice or text, or like we were talking about this on Fireside Chats, but I've had conversations with this with our clients before, where I said, like, I can take a static professional photo, or even like go around your park, take a picture of all 80 of your sites or your cabins on the outside. Just like, I don't care if they're tilted. I don't care if the sun is behind them. Like, that's the basic you can do, put the sun to your back, right? But they don't have to be professional anymore. Give me like 100 of those photos. I can put them into Gemini and I can say, like I did, I showed them an example on a client call the other day. I took an empty cabin and I said, change this to be a sunset, like a warm sunset with a couple sitting outside of the picnic table with a glass of wine. And Gemini just, like, nothing else changed in the cabin. Everything's the same. Every tree branch is the same. Every leaf is the same. The picnic table didn't move at all. And the couple sitting, like, I view that as no different than hiring professional actors. So you can straighten it. You can change the sunset. You can change the lighting. You can do whatever. You can prompt the couple, and then you can have, and then you turn that into a video if you want for a reel. And there's unlimited social content for you without ever lifting a finger and hiring a professional, let alone using an Adobe app.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say that about almost anything, really. But
Yeah.
like, where is that threat not massively present? I think it's really present for Adobe, but I think it's present for a lot of companies. It's present for me. How long is somebody going to need some guy to tell them how to design their solution when the software eventually? I mean, I should be replacing myself as I speak, and in many ways I am. I got a bunch of agents that help me code
Mhm.
now, so these old fingers and my RSI are no longer a barrier to me producing creative content or, like, applications or whatnot, where it used to be really, really uncomfortable to do that at stretches. So everybody's under threat.
What do you think, Scott? Welcome, by the way. You haven't had a chance to talk yet. I'm sorry.
That's right. You guys are talking about shit that's kind of ancillary for me directly. I don't use Adobe. Other people who work with me do. So
Good for you. You save
we can
thousands
call
of
them in.
dollars on software. I use like 10 minutes a month.
I use, I use statistical software, data management stuff. So that's where my focus is. So yeah, the Adobe stuff. I'm out.
But same thing for you for your statistical software. You're going to be able to like prompt. You probably do this right now, not as one shot, but in Claude Code for sure. Like one shot, you build your own statistical software that's proprietary to Kane.
Right. In fact,
Right,
in the
okay.
one program I use, you can tell Chat or Perplexity to code in R and create, a visualization or a data modeling setup for you that way.
Don't use Perplexity for that, man. We got to bring you up to speed into the real world. Perplexity was Perplexity ever good at coding? I don't know. I guess if you used Claude model in Perplexity, it could be.
I don't know anybody who used Perplexity for coding, but it definitely was popular as a research button.
For sure, yes.
That's what I mostly. That's because I'm just comfortable with it for the research stuff, the secondary research. We'll call it desktop research. That because it goes out and finds all those academic articles and brings out all that information and compiles it and gives you the sources and everything. That's just me.
All right. Well, Scott, what came across your desk in the last week that you want to chat about?
I think one of the things that I was thinking about earlier today, even a little bit, is the idea sometimes, and for someone like myself with the background I have in research and so on, we tend to get kind of verbose in whatever we do. And that carries over to our reports, to our communications. And I've really been thinking more about it, like the last couple months, especially, as I've been developing some new stuff that I've gone through everything I do and basically cut it in half.
Okay.
And then let it sit for a day or two and go back in and then cut it in half again. And it ends up being way better than the original. Because for most people, they don't have the time nor inclination to go through all that dense material. And I'll still provide all that information if they want it. But what I've found is that, again, anecdotally, is the feedback I've received has been great. Like, people will go, wow, this is great. Whereas in the past, it was more like, I'll let you know what I think when I finally get through this. So it's that kind of that idea of paring things down and being a lot more focused on the primary points, the primary issues that you really want to get across. Make sure you do that first. And as long as I've been doing this stuff, it's like it's really been obvious to me recently. And I think a lot of it has to do with people are just super buried in information right now too. So the real dense reports and so on are just not as attractive as they once were.
How do we present that though to people in a new era where you can know anything but people don't know the questions to ask? How do you present it in more of a proactive manner?
Well, what you have to do is one is ask the questions yourself and go through the whole questioning back and forth with the people you're working with and working for. That to me is, this is a topic we've talked about at length in our work, and that is to use, and sometimes you have to actually use some structure to get people to ask questions. You have to kind of put it back on them to do that. And that, I mean, that's how you get to it. Without that, you're shooting in the dark, and you may or may not hit the point of what you're trying to do. So it's really that upfront work, doing most of that before you do any execution whatsoever. You really have to really get into the weeds on the questions, and what it is that, if it's self-initiated, it's like, what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to do this? If it's for someone else, you have to basically hold them down and force them to answer your question. And then to ask you questions about, how you're going to do it, what's your approach, what are all those things, and because at the end of the day, it's about getting them the information they can use. Without that, and they need to be able to dig through it. If it's too dense, if there's too much jargon in there, all that kind of stuff, it becomes unwieldy to them. One of my initiatives for 2026 is to shorten up everything I do, and then just provide detail as needed, but to really let's just cut to the chase on this stuff, and be more developmental in what we do. That's what it allows you to do. If you use that approach, you can dig into it a little bit more. You can analyze a little bit more, because you've just now given yourself the space to do that.
I think the way our society consumes information is going to change radically in the next 5 years. I think that 98% of people won't even open the report anymore, even if they want to know the information. And I think the information you get, I think data is the moat, right? The more data, the more research that's proprietary that you do that they can only get from Karen or Insider Perks or Modern Campground or from Ari at Fat Rat or whatever else, right? I think you are going to end up seeing the algorithms push that into something like an Alexa daily brief that's like 100,000 times smarter than that for what is the thing you need to know today in your business that's personalized to you based on everything. And I think that data, if it's done right and in a way that is intentional and purposeful and trying to be valuable to people, will always make it into their life somehow. Even if the full report won't, the headline of the statistic that you need to communicate will. What do you think, Ari?
Well, there was, I remember when I first went to MIT, it was like the first day or two, I remember one of the people that was like giving like the overview, they kind of like talked to all the incoming kids about the year and rah 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 type of stuff. But I remember one of them said that one of the things that they're really focused on, this is like probably the only thing I remember from that, was that they said that they really want to make sure that they teach us, like that we learn how to learn. And I think like that really stuck. I don't know why I'd never heard that idea before. I think it's something I had already intuitively tried to, like, I got to figure out how to acquire new knowledge myself, etc. But just that simple idea as like a guiding principle, I think it makes a lot of sense, because you had asked a minute or two ago about like how do we get people to understand how to use these tools better. You got infinite knowledge, but I don't have infinite time to go and read through all of that. So then it becomes more of a question of like, how do you teach people how to interact with AI to ask the right questions. It's kind of like how you'd have to have a, like if you were doing a project, like you'd want to teach them how to understand that what we've done is sort of shift from memorization to, it's almost like GPS. Like you have to like navigate through this, and all the data, the facts, that's all really, really cheap. But making sense of it is really scarce. Like that's the hard thing. So I'd want people to, like the regular Joes who don't really give a shit about any of the stuff that the three of us could giddily talk about for hours. Like, okay, what does this do for my life? Those your meat and potato folks who are just like kind of driving the country forward, and keeping the the wheels on the road. I want them to learn how to frame problems properly. And like you shift away from the idea. I think the idea of Google is kind of gone. Like searching for information is gone, and you have to get expertise at whatever the Google foo version of LLM interactions is. Like people have to get really like capable at asking and framing problems and testing assumptions and figure out how to update their own mental models in basically real time. Like if you do good AI questioning, that forces people to do that. I don't think that I think there needs to be like classes on this. Like there's classes on prompt engineering and stuff like that. I think that is just a drop in the bucket. People have to learn how to think about things differently now that everybody can have infinite knowledge. It's like, how do you get to the knowledge you care about rapidly and effectively without getting lost in the infinity of data? And what's more is when you're interacting with these systems that in so many domains are going to know so much more than you do, how do you make sure you're getting good information back when you don't have the technical competency to validate it? And a lot of that, yeah, there's hallucinations, but that is getting much, much better, like noticeably better with the new systems. I think it's less worrying about the models lying to you or fabricating information, and much more about making sure that you ask the right questions so that you can have confidence in what the information you're going to get back is. But if you didn't ask the right questions, you won't know that you got the right answer back to a different question. Then you potentially sound utterly ridiculous when you're trying to build new ideas on the basis of something that you didn't have the ability to inspect. Like that's where I think the real challenge and opportunity is to like uplift society, is to get people really, really like capable at asking intelligent questions and updating their own thinking very rapidly. And that's not something humans are great at. Like we get fixed in an idea and we just want to believe it because it's like easier to just say, hey, I finally understand something, I'm just going to stick with that, and I'm going to have a lot of friction to change that. And that's just not the world we're in now, because we should all assume that we're ignorant of everything, and the only thing we need to be able to be good at is talking to an oracle that can tell us anything.
Well, but what you're talking about is like the learn how to learn. Like unless you went to MIT or you figured it out, or you went to one of those rare private schools that teaches you how to do that, like I would argue to say 90-95% of the people for the last few generations who grew up in Western education never learned how to do that. You're just not taught that. Like it goes back. I learned this from the studying history. If you ever look up at the ancient Romans and how they did school, like the ancient Romans did school two different ways. If you were a slave, you went to school and you learned how to do skills. And that's exactly what our entire Western education system is modeled after, getting off people out of the farms and into the factories, sitting in straight rows, raising your hand, doing exactly as you're told. Like there's a great video from Seth Godin and TED Youth like 12, 13 years ago. It's still on YouTube. That is amazing for explaining that. And then, but if you were a free person in Rome, they taught you how to teach yourself, because they had no idea what Roman society would need of you. And so the hope was, by teaching you how to teach yourself, you would teach yourself to become a bread maker or a blacksmith or whatever happens outside of school that like you would want to then contribute to society. And we've lost.
Well, maybe more like I would say more like apprentice based. It was like you would imitate, and I mean, there was still a lot of memorization involved, but that was a necessary thing back then. And you would apprentice, so you would learn by watching adults work, presumably, and so your skills, they came from actual doing of things and not so much abstract theories, putting aside like philosophers, like if you're thinking of like Aristotle or Plato or Socrates, assuming they all existed, that was a different type of knowledge. But for most people, I think it was just this apprenticeship, like a farmer would learn about seasons and soil by failing with their crops and stuff like that, and watching what their parents
And
did.
the apprentice would watch them fail, though, which was a
Yeah.
critical part of that to see,
And
right?
that's the different world that we don't live in that world so much now. I mean, I can tell you when my general contractor is doing stuff, I'm always trying to learn from him. It's way more interesting to watch how he'll like caulk up that or trench something, or how he builds a mail shed or insulating. That's very much experiential. But I think so much of that is kind of gone, and I think we kind of need to, in a way, go. I don't want to say go back to it, but I do think it's a different kind of capability. I think even being knowledgeable is going to increasingly mean something very different than it does now. I think the person who is more creative and understanding how to interact with like this oracle, these hyper knowledgeable AIs, I think that skill is going to be more useful and probably lead to better outcomes or results than the person who is maybe objectively in some calculated way smarter, maybe academically or whatnot, but is less performant at their interactivity with AI, or more resistant to learning from an AI. I think that they will be outperformed by the people who are capable with the AI by orders of magnitude, and I think that's what we need to get society comfortable with it, which is, it's not going to be about how much can you lift or how much could you memorize for that chemistry test or whatnot. It's going to be how well do you understand the thing that understands everything.
I'm going to tell my girlfriend you said it's not about how much I lift anymore, so I don't have to work out as much.
Oh,
So,
cool.
it's all Ari's fault. What's new in your world, Ari, that you've seen in the last week or so? You think we should talk about?
Well, I was actually just mentioning this to Scott before we started. Like, I think there's a different. This is the first year, and I would say in a decade, but I think since I started professionally working, so probably in 20 plus 30 years, I don't know, where my December was the busiest month I've had. This is when everybody's typically going on vacation and business starts winding down, and I've gotten so many inquiries for new work, and like serious inquiries. I never accounted for this. I was like saying, okay, cool, I got 2 weeks to catch up on this server bill. Like, that's still sitting there. I thought I was going to start that a week and a half ago. I don't know what the fuck went wrong, but like I just was doing client and SOW stuff and like doing specs and going through architecture stuff. And I think that comes from some general sense in the world that we don't really have time for a month and a half to take off. Like, that luxury doesn't exist. I might be building some idea out of nothing, but it's so dramatically different how that's what I'm hearing constantly. It's like, we have to go. We can't wait a couple weeks to do this thing. We have to get started right away. Oh, December 23rd? Sure, no problem. Let's get the project kicked off. Like, that is a huge change. And I think it speaks to a larger shift away from, the more relaxed approach that we took to work, I think, previously. And that's both good and bad, but probably mostly bad, because Americans had a pretty aggressive approach to work compared to most folks that I dealt with in Europe. So I don't know, but I can tell you that that's been the most shocking thing. I mean, yeah, of course, frontier models are there's just so many interesting things happening and whatnot. And what I'm thinking about for 2026, I don't want to say it's been keeping me up at night, but I've been thinking a lot about it, whether I want to or not. My brain just won't shut up. And this kind of like pushed me into that. I was like, oh, you know what? It's real. Things are really changing, and I don't know that they're going to be changing back. Just like this idea of going into work and remote work. I know people are trying to push us back in, but I just think that's antiquated. I think people are going to continuously work in more remote manners because it's going to be more efficient as monitoring of people becomes more effective. So I think I think we're going to see some permanent shifts in the way that everything happens in terms of like the mechanics around how society functions.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it's probably a bunch of both.
Yeah, I think it's maybe bad first, good long term.
Yeah,
what I'm thinking. Or I hope, right?
I mean, when I I was talking about this with a colleague, and I told him, yeah, I really do believe we're going to have like a pretty dystopian couple of years, but hopefully not much longer than that, while we adjust to we adjust the fact that we always have to be adjusting. I think it hasn't settled into the fabric of society that like disruption is just something we should be used to. Like you're not going to be doing what your grandfather did or what your mom did for work. Like that ship has sailed. If it happens, it's going to be a completely different version of what that work was than what you're thinking of it as. My daughter's looking to go into architecture, and she's only 10, so that could change to anything. But if I look at the future of architecture, I mean, you were just talking about Adobe. Like, in what world 8 years from now is architecture going to look anything like it does now? Where there was some model that was just released, I just read about it a few days ago, and it can take a 2-dimensional like rasterized image and create a 3D vectorized CAD CAM model from that. That is, I spent years working on that problem with a huge construction company, a huge software construction company, and that is an incredibly difficult problem. From the morphological transformations and flood fills, like it is not easy to take a blueprint and create an actual CAD CAM model. And I'm seeing what these models are doing now, and it's amazing and disheartening to the older me. And I'm just like, yeah, this is the world of architecture. Like every other thing is going to be so wildly different that it probably isn't even going to be in the same realm. Like that'll be like us looking back at people in horse and buggies, hundreds of years ago. They'll be looking back in 8 years and be like, wait a minute, they had to like open a browser to get online, to join a podcast. They weren't just like their contact lenses / VR headsets weren't just powered by the thermal energy of their body and therefore ran 24/7 and automatically adjusted their vision. That didn't just connect to Brian when Ari thought, hey, contact Brian. It didn't just show Brian in like the corner, like some 3-dimensional thing. Everything is going to seem so unbelievably antiquated. And so that's the thing, that little thing, like working through December, having such a busy month and having the clients express that same sentiment that they cannot slow down for any reason. It really has got me thinking that things are just going to keep moving faster, and we've got to get society at large really comfortable with the fact that they're never going to be able to be too comfortable with the status quo. I don't know how you do that, but
I mean, I agree with everything you said, but I don't know that I'm very confident we can get society there without some kind of crisis happening to them.
Oh, if I said I was confident, then I radically
right.
spoke. I am not confident. I'm very confident that we shouldn't be confident in that, because people hate change. They like fucking despise it. Like, and I do too. Sometimes you just want to be like, all right, let me just chill out and jump on the ATV and go out for a day and not read about the latest like frontier model or agentic, framework, whatever. But you don't really get time off, and we'll have to figure out some way for that to not be the case. I have a sense of how that's going to happen. I think it's going to come in the form of like a true agentic, like co-pilots for the everyday person, like a private agent that is your virtual brain that's scanning things 24/7 and is just feeding you what you need to know. So I could go into any situation, and in 20 seconds, I can know everything I need to know. And even I can learn it in real time. It could be like telling me in my ear, oh, Brian just asked you about this new extension MCP. You haven't read about it yet because I'm with you the whole time. And so I know you're not aware of it. Here's what you should probably know. And it'll tell me, oh, this is what Brian's talking about. And it knows what I know. So it knows, just tell me this little bit. And now I can have an intelligent conversation. So I can kind of pick up where my like sort of linear ability to acquire information like drops off. Like this can be acquiring everything and just sort of sitting there listening and following my conversations. Super creepy from a privacy point of view, but it's everything in terms of making sure that I can stay up to date without actually having to stay up to date. That, of course, requires the requisite level of ability, though, which I think would take people a long time to train into, even just to be at that point where they could just take new information and ingest it easily.
Or your agent just downloads it into your Neuralink and puts it in your memory, and you don't even know it's there until you need to recall
at a certain point, though, we're just biological slaves to these things? Like, okay, AI.
I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying like it's coming.
I don't doubt it. How many people do you think would go on autopilot if they could? Like, I might do some
A
of my
lot.
more boring, like like calls. I'll like the clients telling you about how important this one thing is, and you're like, I know I don't have to listen to this, but I have to be respectful. How many times would it be nice to go into just autopilot, say, okay, AI, make sure that my facial expressions look appropriate, that I'm not drooling, provide coherent, non-committal responses to whatever stuff is being spewed out, and wake me up when I need to get back in the game. I think 100% of us would choose to do that if we've already accepted that something's going to be imposing itself on all aspects of our lives.
Yeah, but at that point, then you're talking to their AI, and it's yeah, they're all downloading the conversation for the Zoom of the one thing you needed to know from the 5 minutes of the hour meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be.
it's going to be a performance enhancement, but it's like what you said. I think all three of us will look and say, wow, there's going to be an amazing future ahead where things are so efficient, where like we don't need to do Zoom calls. I just tell my agent, hey, communicate all this stuff with, Brian and Scott's agents, and we have a 30-second conversation where we've got the nucleus of what we all needed to know. And now our conversation is just built on that. And it saved us an hour of talk, and it maybe scanned other videos and extract that data, like what we were talking about earlier. Like all of this is on the way, but it's only on the way with a lot of like, there's gonna be a lot of pain to get there. I mean, like real pain, as in like
Yeah.
civil unrest, social upheaval type of pain, because a lot of people's jobs are going to have to be permanently displaced. I don't know how, I mean, just think about what 2026 represents. I think it's going to be like systemic chaos. And it's just going to be the first, like, I think it's going to be the
Wave.
first step towards it, Like,
Did you
that's
see
where
the agentic, like the Agentic AI Foundation?
wait, what about? Sorry?
So Claude open sourced MCP, donated
Oh,
it to the Linux Foundation, and then them and like I don't know 60 other companies, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, formed the Agentic AI Foundation to work on a standard set that includes MCP and other stuff together, so all the agents can communicate across all their platforms. That's
yeah.
going to go
I mean,
for
it's super cool, but whether it was that or something else, MCP was just a step ahead from from
yes,
old school
yeah,
tooling, and that'll continue to evolve. It one way or the other, like calling external tools and agent like inter process communication, that's going to get better and better. I have no doubt of that. I'm more worried about how do people adapt to this, or how do we become comfortable with this as part of our daily life? Because even if you don't want to utilize these things, you don't want this to take over, the disadvantage that, like, imagine, Scott, you're using some sophisticated AI it's in your glasses right now. It's recording everything we're saying. It's giving you knowledge right
it
through your
probably is. He's
ear.
way ahead of us. It
Yeah,
probably
I know.
is.
He's already had this
Yeah.
conversation. He's finished the entire conversation. Like, how would I have the ability to have a coherent conversation with you if you never had to ask a question about things, and I had to constantly be checking and looking things up or Googling or asking AI? If you had that knowledge, it would be such a strategic advantage. I'd be forced to go along with you. It's like the horse and buggy. If you're driving the car and I'm in the horse and buggy, I'm just not going to be able to compete in any meaningful way if we have like serious workloads to do. So that's where I think the real challenge comes from, is like what happens with both with physical labor and knowledge work are superseded by AI. I think that 2026 is going to be all about that. The agentic revolution is a part of it, but there's so much more to it. And I think all these things are going to culminate in just pandemonium. I'm just curious what the scale is going to be. I think we're going to genuinely start feeling when the everyday citizen wakes up and is like, oh my God, this is a huge problem. Like, including people in like my state who have been shielded from a lot of this because it's just such a beautiful natural outdoor environment that a lot of folks have been fine without this stuff. I don't think that's going to persist for much longer.
Yeah, just this morning I shared with Brian an article from our local paper here that the city of Lewiston voted to reject a data center. And this I've been paying attention to this because it also happened near my hometown in Michigan too, in northern Michigan, the exact same thing. So what you're seeing is on the ground. And the reason that it really caught my eye was it was based on a conversation from last week, where we talked about what happens, especially in some of the rural areas, the adaptation, and even broader, based on what you were just saying too. It's like, just to stay competitive. I mean, if you look at the business world, just to stay competitive, you're going to have to, because if someone's working so much more efficiently, if they're 10 steps ahead of you all along the way, and they're doing it cheaper, you're going to have to. It's, I compare it to how we used to do market research, even 10, 15 years ago, compared to what we do now. It's like if I had to do it the way I did just a few years ago, I wouldn't last at all. It'd be, because I'd be at such a disadvantage. And that's today. That's as of today.
Did they have a good reason for rejecting the data center?
No.
There could be good reasons, but I suspect it was more. I suspect they were not great reasons.
No, and they're all over the place. It's for reasons that because no. And here's the thing: I forget which company it was that was bringing it in. Did a very poor job of informing the public of what it's all about. So now what people do is they fill in the blanks. So it's, if you look at what people say, one person's way over here, it's like, oh, it's going to ruin the Androscoggin River. It's going to make our utility rates go way up. It's going to fill in the blank. And it's not going to, it may have a few jobs up front, but then it's like going to be like 30 custodial jobs. And you know what I mean? It's like, it was all over the place. There was no coherent, and I blame the company a bit on this too, for not bringing to the table a coherent message that people can understand easily and know and make better decisions. But it's very emotional. Once it gets emotional, you've lost it. You've lost the game.
Yeah.
And it became a very emotional issue.
Yeah, I anticipate very similar conversations happening here. I think we're a bit behind you, but I expect those same kind of challenges to come up in my state more and more, and I'm sure all over the country. It's almost like if justification is do this and it'll be less bad than if you don't, that's a hard argument to make, but it might actually be reality. It's like, okay, if you don't do this, then unemployment will be down 80%. But if you do this, keep it to a sexy 45% unemployment. Like nobody's loving these values. Nobody's loving these trends. You want a positive message to look at. But you drop a data center in a place, the best thing I think you can envision there is, I don't think it's like a huge number of jobs being added or anything else like that, maybe for the initial build, but like long term, I think it's more about, okay, we're going to bring a ton of cash. Like that would be the messaging I would think that they should say. Is like, hey, we're going to be throwing subsidies left, right, and center out the gate. Every one of you is getting like, a free pony every Christmas, and your electric bill is going to be free, and you get free compute. Like that's how I imagine the story should have been told, because there's probably not much of a better story. Like why else is anybody going to really care about some, either at best case invisible, but in more likely some unattractive data center, that's just sucking up resources? Why else would you want it except for capital? But again, the alternative is, I don't know, does the town die or whatever? But
yeah.
You saw what happened with the auto industry.
I mean, we'll explore this briefly. Share my screen, Jessica. I'm not going to go into the camping stuff, but I want to show you guys what I did the other day. We'll save the RV industry predictions and stuff for January after Christmas. But
yeah, I love how this is a hospitality and glamping. Like we never make it there. We're too busy like predicting the end of the world. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you said somebody's got to do it, right? This is what Outwired's here for, right? Like hopefully we're wrong, but people have to talk about this. Yeah, it's fair.
Absolutely.
So I started this whole exercise, this conversation. It's up above in Claude, I think 3 nights ago, because I was watching on YouTube. I don't know if you saw it. The guy, I can't remember what his name was talking about how the poverty line in the United States is not actually 31,000 like they say it is. It's actually $140,000 is what the poverty line is in the United States, which obviously drew a lot of attention and whatever else. It's a really good story if you want to go look at it. And I won't go into the basic economics of all that stuff, but it's a fascinating exercise to see how they actually calculate the poverty line in the US and how bullshit it is. Anyway, so I this is all above this conversation. So then I was like, all right, what do you think the future holds for this? Because you're well aware of what AI and robotics is going to do to jobs, self-driving cars, trucks. Will there be a trigger point that people can't ignore sometime in the next 5 years? Like I try to be intentionally vague, even though I've done this hundreds of times, right? So what's actually coming in the next 5 years? Trucking, 3.5 million jobs in the US alone. Self-driving trucks are already running limited routes, etc. The model will likely be autonomous on the highway, human last mile. That still eliminates 60 to 70% of the jobs. Widespread adoption 2027 to 2029. Warehousing and logistics, customer service and call centers, white collar knowledge work. Retail is already a zombie industry with self-checkout, Amazon, automated inventory. The remaining jobs are part-time, no benefits. Food service, kiosks for ordering, robotic food prep, and fast food. So let's say over the next 5 years, AI and automation eliminate or significantly degrade 10 to 15 million jobs. That's conservative. Some estimates go much higher. Where do these people go? The traditional answer was they retrain and move to new industries, but the new jobs require skills that take years to develop. There aren't enough new jobs being created. The new jobs that do exist are also threatened by AI, and a 55-year-old truck driver isn't becoming a machine learning engineer. And this is Claude saying, I think it looks something like this: 2026 to 2027, a major recession hits. But unlike previous recessions, the jobs don't come back in the same way. Companies use the recession as cover to automate. We had to make hard choices. When the economy recovers, GDP goes back up, employment doesn't recover with it. The official unemployment rate stays low because people drop out of the labor force. And then psychological shift. Right now, if you lose your job to AI, you feel like you failed. You weren't skilled enough. You didn't adapt. But when it happens to enough people, the narrative shifts from I failed to we got fucked. I love how Claude swears. That's when it gets dangerous. What dangerous looks like: probably not guillotines in the street, more likely massive political volatility, rise of explicitly anti-tech movements, labor actions and strikes, localized unrest in areas that gets hit hardest, continued rise in deaths of despair, suicide, overdose, alcoholism, potential for a genuine third party or populist movement that breaks the current political structure. And then obviously UBI. My honest prediction is when 2027, 2028 becomes undeniable. So I said, if you can wave a magic wand and estimate the job numbers based on your intelligence and knowledge, what do you think the month-by-month U.S. job report numbers will look like for the 12 months in 2026, 2027, 2028? And it estimated like a bunch of this stuff, the slowdown and all that stuff. And then I did a bunch of other prompts after this. Before you go further, I want you to look at your numbers. You just revised and estimated and looked at the current job reports that have happened in 2020. So I had it go back and look at 2025 to set the placeholder for it. And it adjusted all that shit. And then I was like, print out all 3 years. So this is what it thinks right now. 2026, the recession deepens. January, a loss of 150,000 jobs. Then 200,000 in February, 250 in March, 320 in April, escalating all the way to August, and then down a little bit. Total net job losses in 2026, 3.7 million jobs.
That so a comment and a question. So that seems conservative to me.
It is. I think it is.
And when you said the poverty line, right? Like that's this. I'm not like super familiar with this, but like the poverty line, that's like what measures like starvation risk, right? But like a real poverty line, like we're saying, it has to. It's not about like avoiding death. It's about being sort of excluded from basic functions. Like you can't buy stability and you don't have any optionality, and like you're
So I'm not an economist, right? I'm not an economist, but from what I watched, the $31,000 poverty line, the US says $31,000 is the level of poverty now, was originally calculated based in the 1960s. And they calculated in the 1960s based on the fact that in the 1960s, the most expensive thing a household paid for was food at 33% of their budget. And they didn't take into account in that poverty line anything else like insurance or electricity or housing or all the shit that's basically skyrocketed over the last 60 years. And so when they've adjusted the annual formulation in 1960, the poverty rate was $3,000. They've adjusted it only based on inflation, but continued to account for food being the most largest expense, even though it's only 5 to 7% of everybody's expense in today's world because everything else is skyrocketed. And so the guy here that wrote the fucking, I don't know what, there's a blog post somewhere. can't remember his name, basically took the same mathematical calculation and applied it to, well, what is the actual real expenses that people spend today on childcare if you have two people going, two people's salaries, because it was originally calculated on a family of four that can survive by 31,000. So did all that shit, and the math came out to like $118,000 or something, plus federal tax is like $140,000.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the number is, that directionally, like, or that logic makes sense to me. I don't have the background or the data to validate it, but it seems completely reasonable. It's funny when you're talking about that. All I'm thinking about is like, this is exactly why that my wife and I wanted to create balance. Like that's like what you describe as, I think of as like a poverty trap. It's like, how do you get out of that situation? You have like the cost to be able to make decisions versus like trying to get everybody's income higher within a system that inherently is kind of broken. Like, I think it's a big motivating factor, excuse me, behind what we're trying to do. And I think that it's like that notion that we can sort of decouple like survival and learning and dignity from this sort of, I don't know what to call it, like metropolitan like price pressure. If you have these challenges where you're like, you have shifting, if you could shift the housing and energy and food and compute and like security variables into sort of a shared but privately controlled infrastructure, I feel like you could you could dramatically lower like the income that would be required to actually achieve the real surplus that I think people want, which is what I want and what I know you want, which is like, we want time surplus, we want like cognitive bandwidth surplus, we want optionality. I don't need 140,000 or 140 million or like $140. Like, if the housing is stable, the power is reliable and resilient, there's childcare that's like proximate to my position, and like transportation is not a big issue, like, then what does the money actually do? It's just a means of transferring and measuring and storing like value. So make it easier to make that equation more frictionless between the things that people care about and that want to do and the things they actually are sort of personally driven towards. So I may have to do this work over here, but if I do that, it should equate in an attractive way to the things that I'm really passionate about over here. I mean, it's the great world when those things kind of collide, but I think that's a big part of what we're trying to solve for. And I think it's the kind of problem that needs a lot of different kind of solutions. And I expect it's why I'm so interested in hospitality. Like, how many people like yourself or myself or Scott or the great folks that we met at those conferences, these are people that are in different ways attacking this problem without even knowing about it. Like, how do you make more affordable housing that can work in more off-grid environments, or how do you make it so that you're not so tied to a certain urban like locality? Like, these are the things that I think really are going to be the difference makers, which is why, again, I probably would debate that point about like the RV industry, because eventually people won't have money to buy RVs and stuff like that. But
I mean, it's all in here. We'll see it in January. I just don't want to depress people before Christmas, man. Too much. We're already doing
like I said, I think it's going to go the other direction, but for a depressing reason, because people are being driven out of other things into mobility oriented solutions, and I think that effect will just like trail like one step behind. So eventually, I think what you're talking about is probably a year ahead. Like, I suspect that's what's going to continuously happen in the traditional like housing markets. But yeah, whenever it happens, it's on the way. It's just a question of timing.
Have you seen any of David Shapiro's content?
The name sounds familiar, but maybe not. What are you thinking?
Watch him on YouTube and look up something specifically. He put together a whole huge narrative piece, and he's writing a book on post-labor economics.
Okay.
And he talks about some really good thought leadership and like how the thing works after, because right now, because
when you have like abundance from the perspective of like robotics reducing like the cost of goods to effectively zero, and why UBI won't work. So what a true post-labor economy should look like. yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I definitely interested in that. I definitely would check that out because I think as long as they're looking at it, or as long as he or his organization or whatnot are looking at this as a problem that isn't like a political talking point, like it feels like it is now, or some sort of like, I don't know, systems transition problem. Like it just the idea that to survive we have to work. I think that that's what's being like smashed, and anybody who's thinking about how to address that problem is at least thinking about the right kind of problem.
This guy.
Okay, I have seen this thing. I knew it's just that he sounded familiar. I love the Matrix, symbology there, the red pill
Yeah.
or blue pill. Which is the good pill? I don't even know in this situation, but
So he's got all this stuff that's like hours long in books and talks about post AGI economics, and he's been talking about it for years.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm very interested in it. It's just a question of like there has to be sort of an interdisciplinary approach to how these things are going to be handled because what I have read about from folks in terms of like how whether they're talking about UBI or in general discussions about post-labor economies, what I feel like they tend to ignore are the realities of how people function and how like politics works and how bureaucracy functions and inertia, like resistance to change, uh, and that's on top of all the social problems we have right now. I think most of what I have read, I'm saying most because I'm assuming some of it was more grounded, but pretty much everything I could think of, it was almost like, oh, okay, if we could theoretically put this system in place, this would work. I think it doesn't account for this period of chaos that I think we're already firmly in, but that people don't know we're in yet for the most part, but that there's like it's at the fringes. It's like you're on a boat that's sinking, but you don't know it's sinking yet. And until like water is just rushing in, like you're like just dancing around, and then boom. Oh wait, I think I'm thinking of a Titanic analogy here, but whatever. The point being that until people are like aware of the imminent destruction, I think that these theoretical ideas will remain theoretical, and that we have to get really ground game. Like, how is this going to work, even when where religion's concerned, and geopolitical
oh yeah,
border. It's just it's a really challenging set of problems that have to be solved as like a system of equations, not just like one atomic solution over here. And that I haven't seen that happening. I'm
no,
I'm
it's like
hoping
a
that
20
there's some shadowy cabal of the government that's
that's
doing this.
doing this. Yeah,
It's got like a bunch of people like chained downstairs, like in some underground bunker, and say, "Solve this problem if you want to get out of here." And they are actively working on this problem because somebody's
it's
got
like
to
a
be.
20 to 30-year plan. Like I modeled this in a separate conversation months ago with Claude to reframe society. Like it goes all the way back to the kids going to school and teaching them that the job is not their identity.
Yeah.
Like this is not something that can be handled overnight.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. I
here's
mean,
your
how many people of our generation like identify their persona intimately with the work they did? Like they feel better about
almost everybody I
themselves.
know.
Like I I might be the exception to it because I don't particularly care about people in my industry or whatever why I do. I like doing the work I do is less valuable and interesting to me by far than the things I get to do outside of work, like hanging out with the kids, building something with my wife. Like so that was kind of always been my way. So I was really ahead of my time by not finding much value in my work for decades. But the point is that people are going to have to start thinking that way because they're no longer going to be able to be at the top of their field. It's just going to be some automaton like that, and that'll be a permanent shift. And
Here's
where
your
does
numbers.
value come from?
Here's your updated numbers. You tell me if these are good. Because down in the conversation, I was like, "Are you accounting for robots, humanoids, self-driving cars, and other things with the numbers, the job loss every month, or just the impact of AI on white-collar jobs?" And it was like, "Oh shit,
This
that's a massive
is what I
oversight."
meant. Like I said, it's a nice theoretical analysis, but I told you it was conservative because there's so many other things you have to account for. And let's not forget that everything we're talking about here, this is just what we're discussing. There's already problems that have nothing to do with AI. Like there are just like look the political and culture war stuff that we have going on in this country and our two-party system, which is a joke because both these parties just fucking suck. And you just have to say, well, which party is better for the future of the country? You don't get to even like think about your ethics or morals because you have to think longer term for your kids.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of stuff that affects our ability to think longer term like this, even beyond like all the impacts that are coming from our industry. It's really scary when you really start digging into this. Like if none of this was going on, we'd all still be worried about the future of this country, like desperately worried about it and worried about our kids' future. And then you add in this like, you know, this sort of like looming societal collapse, destruction. Well, I mean, like when the people at the top of the stack are telling you, yeah, there's at least a 20% chance we're not going to wipe out all of humanity. Like, there's no good news to find in that cutting edge, like with those people who are at the cutting edge, let alone the people that are doing the ground game stuff. It seems like without AI, things are getting worse and worse. So there's a lot of problems that need to be solved for them, and they kind of need to be solved simultaneously, and it needs to happen like yesterday. I don't think I'm still not hearing any of these conversations going on at the political level, which is where ultimately, I mean, that's where power resides.
It's the only place it gets solved, yeah.
You know, I'm actually glad that Trump is doing something with regards to like forming an AI team. It's like, would it be the way I would approach it? No, but I'm seeing things happen that at least seem like they're good from that very specific perspective. And I am saying Trump, I'm just referring to the whole administration. It seems like there's a lot of forward thinking as far as AI and technology. Now, is it for the right reasons? Maybe it's because of some sort of alpha male competition with China or whatever, but I don't really care why it's happening. I'm just like, okay, at least something useful is going on that might keep us competitive. But we need 1,000 times more of that. We need like people whispering in everybody's ear saying, hey, yo, we got to do something about this shit right away. We got to rethink jobs, rethink work, rethink value, retrain, automate. Like you look at China, they got trucks all over the place doing everything. Like they're driving in and out right now. We're just getting to that point right now. It's a real risk for all of us.
Way back when, I'll tell old guy stories here again. There was in my college days, I studied behaviorism a lot. And I actually got to meet the person they consider the father of behaviorism, B.F. Skinner. Anyway, if you look him up, you'll see he kind of literally wrote the books on behaviorism. And I went and saw him speak about, the title of his speech is, "Why Aren't We Acting to Save Our World?" And really, because you said something a little bit ago, Ari, that prompted this age-old memory in me, that because what he talked about was the fact that as humans, we're so impacted by those immediate cues that anything in the future is theoretical. We cannot relate to that. And for people, and the further down you go in terms of the basic needs that someone has, that they're not going to think about, do I need automation? Do I want automation? I'm wondering where my next meal is coming from.
Yeah.
And so now what you have is that person, their basic needs. When you look at that pyramid, the Maslow's hierarchy, to get, throw that out there too, is the idea that people need to take care of their basic needs first. And then there's immediacy to it. And every action they make is based on that immediacy, because the risk reward, it's operant conditioning, where their behavior is modified by the consequences of what they do. And so that is what it's all about. And that is one of the reasons that things like this are so hard to get that adaptation. It's why you see a lot of this pushback, especially in rural areas where people, they're paycheck to paycheck, and they're looking at buying Christmas gifts right now and making those trade-offs. So and then to come full circle with the political stuff, the politicians don't, all they do is blow smoke up people's asses on all these issues and tell them that we're going to take care of these immediate needs while never doing it. And in the meantime, forgetting about the future too, so it's like the inability to see that dual path where let's help people in the here and now, but let's plan for the future too, because we can do two things at once here. We can walk and chew gum. You're not a politician. Will we?
Well, I don't know. E.F. Skinner, is that what it was? E.F. Skinner? I don't have much already background in that, but the evolutionary biology side of it, like I'm a bit more comfortable with, and I mean, modern reinforcement systems, like if you think about how we're wired, like we have these short time horizons because that's what kept us going, kept us alive. Like a goldfish doesn't have time to think, oh, is this thing gonna eat me? It's just got to make a move. Like something's coming this way, go that way. Don't have time to evaluate if I like it or if it's safe. It's just like action reaction, and that's very very quick. And I think this type of like, it's almost like we have this sort of temporal discounting that we have to do where our brain sort of devalues. I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is true. It's just what I think is probably true. Like our brains seem to devalue future rewards relative to those immediate ones because
Right.
evolutionarily, I would think this is a completely rational thing. Like, but the bird in the hand, like something with the bush,
Right.
or whatever.
Two in
Like,
the bush, yeah.
I don't want, like, long-term planning is cool, but in fact, I remember when my daughter's like, I think it was around 7 or 8 when she actually started understood the idea of, oh, you could have something better if you can wait a week, or you can have a thing right now, like one plushie toy today or 5 in a week. And it was always one plushie toy right now. And then at a certain point, she's like, I'll take 5 in a week. And I was just trying to figure out when that inflection point would be hit. I very much think that humans are not built for long-term thinking, and
Mhm.
I think that's a huge problem because it's why things around climate change or racism, sexism, AI, changes, or AI-driven and robotics-driven changes to our economy. These are things that require a very long time horizon. Like you need to think in years and decades about how to address these types of problems. And yeah, I don't think we're good at that, especially with a system where we're changing the emperor of our country changes potentially every 4 years, and and on lower levels things can change every couple of years too. I don't know enough about how government works, unfortunately. As senators, it's 2 years, 6 years republic, representatives, whatever, but it's changing faster than I think our vision needs to be. And without that, we're just going to constantly be looking at those immediate rewards. Oh, I get this back right now. Well, that's better than screw my grandkids. Like, let's pollute the
Well, it's the
ocean.
same thing as
Like,
quarterly reports in the stock market. It's the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
exactly. And I don't think there's a good answer to that. I suspect that answer is going to come in the form of chaos, like something cataclysmic is going to have to occur, like Antarctica's going to have to fall in the ocean, water level's going to rise. So, yep, we got to deal with this problem because now it's right in front of us. And boy, I wish we had started on that 10 years ago. But we don't have the luxury of looking back and complaining. And all those people said we don't need to worry about this. We just have to deal with it now, and then our memories will get hazy for the idiocy from before, and we'll repeat that cycle again and again, at least until we break out of it permanently, either in a utopian way or a dystopian.
What do you think, Scott?
No, that's I'm on board. We're kind of saying, I feel like we're kind of saying the same thing. It's like just from different angles. It's like
Mine a bunch of unsubstantiated opinions, yours from actual training. But okay,
but
let's land in the same place.
No, it's the same thing. We've always, it's human nature. We're hardwired for that. And again, going to the what you were talking about, the biology of it. It's like, that's when we were hunters gatherers, man. It was like you get up in the morning and you grab what you can while you can, and it wasn't until we developed communities that we were able to actually plant things. So you could plant something. Now look, you're not going to see the yield for a while, potentially months. So but it took a while for us to get there as a species, and it's still it's still rare that those people, those farmers, ended up becoming I think the critical thinkers of today. It's their ancestry that they planted stuff.
The farmer academics. But don't you think that, like, so much of this is, to me, and I guess I'm always sort of reframing problems from the perspective of like my selfish interest. So I think about micro communities a lot, and I'm inclined to think that a lot of these problems would disappear if we start building in, like, where localization takes over, because then your feedback is local. You can visualize it. Everybody in your society. Change can ripple through really rapidly.
Your
Decisions.
food doesn't come from Mexico.
Yeah, you just need everything is right there. That for your community, for your world to survive, then I think you can affect change really, really rapidly. And that's kind of why I'm imagining a world where we're gonna have these little pod cities of small groups of people, hopefully like-minded with similar passions and interests, and that they will build communities around that, and that they will decide what role they want AI and robotics to have in their world. And that'll be something that hopefully other micro communities and the surrounding governmental infrastructure respects, which is exactly what I mean. That is already kind of how a lot of these places run. Like when, quick story. Do we have any? Do we have enough time? I don't know. Are we
We
okay?
have
On
lots
time?
of time, man. We used to do 2 hours on this show, Cap. So if you have time, we have time.
Yeah, I have a little more time. I just want to tell the
We still got to
story.
get to Balanced Farm too at some point.
Yeah, sure. I'll happy to talk about that in a minute. When I moved, I moved my mom here after my wife and I bought this place. Moved my mom here, and I just gotten to know my neighbor. Really, really nice guy. Owns a hunting lodge down right on my road. And the thing is, we were having my mom's stuff was being brought up by this moving company from Washington State, and they were trying to like steamroller for more money because like, oh, we're not going to unload it if you don't pay this extra insert fabricated fee here. And I remember, my neighbor happened to call me because he saw that truck come up, and it was a big truck. We don't usually have those kind of trucks on like everybody knows everything around here, right? Because it's really, really local. And he said, "Hey, I just saw this big truck. You got a delivery company? Need some help unloading?" I'm like, "Oh no." Like this asshole's trying to like roll me for some more cash. He's like, he says, "Put me on speaker for a sec." I'm like, "Okay." And because I'm like thinking, all right, I'm still thinking like a LA mindset, right? I guess I'll have to contact the police. There's no police here. Like you have to call the state police. There's no like local police department. So I'm like, yeah. I was like, do you know anybody at the sheriff's department? And he's like, no, just put me on speaker, bro. He's like, so, do you want me to bring you want me and my son to bring our rifles up, or should I just come up with my rifle? I can be there in about 60 seconds. And he has me on speaker, and obviously this is like a low key threat. But like I'm like, oh no, they're like, wait, what? I was like, no, Mark. He's like, no, we're not. Nobody in our community gets screwed. We'll be there in a few minutes. Like, and granted, this is not necessarily the right way to address these kind of problems. But God bless him, that problem got solved before he even made it up there. They're like, oh, okay, I guess the original price was fine. Don't worry about it. Tell your friend. He was still there anyway. He's got his hunting rifle on his son. His son is like deconstructing a fucking Glock like just as a hobby or whatever. And I'm like just watching him like this assemble. And I'm like, they have their own system of government here. I'm guessing that there are like when we were surveying our property, we're just wandering through, and there's like we have like almost 550 acres. There's like a car that's been there since before my mom had been born. Like I'm talking about like 19. There's like bullet holes in it. It's like you can't even recognize it. Like it's just in the middle of the forest. You're like, how did that get here? Like there's definitely bodies buried out there for sure because they do everything locally here. There's no resources to call, and they just manage the community themselves. Meanwhile, crime is non-existent here. Nobody I know locks their doors. Nobody, like, if somebody's here that's not supposed to be here, everybody knows it because you know every single person around you and you have a relationship with them and you call them in. So while maybe that's not the best system of local, like, governance or whatever, I think it's awesome. Like, I love that support system that your neighbor had, and that your neighbors care about each other. When there was floods, we help each other. Like, this is how I think things are going to tend to, whether we like it or not. And I think that the federal government is a distant memory in places like this. Like people just do their own thing and they get along pretty darn well here, without any kind of interference. So I suspect that is going to be more and more of what we see as people become more disillusioned with all these externalities that are just like making their own value systems kind of crumble and their own sense of self-worth just disappear.
Any thoughts, Scott, before we talk about Balanced Farm?
No, I'm on board. I've been a big advocate of the community model for a long time. I tell anyone who will listen, for example, like when I was in college in Kalamazoo, we had beat cops at that time. And you know what? we lived in what was considered one of the poorer parts of town because we were students. There was no crime there. These guys just walked around. They'd walk into your house. They just say, "Hey, what are you guys up?" But the community then knew you had that presence, but they also talked to each other. And they all, it was kind of what you're talking about, Ari. I mean, in the city,
Really hard to rob your friend, you know?
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
tough to like screw over the guy who like just babysat for your sister's kids. Like,
Right.
that doesn't happen.
Exactly. It's that kind of that sense of community that's what it takes. And now when you kind of put the layer on there of being whether you're more forward looking or not, you're going to look to your community for some of those answers and the thought leaders within your community. And that's where the influence starts, is at that level within those types of communities. And that's how you influence change, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So tell us about Balanced Farm, man.
Well, Balanced Farm is my and my wife's reaction to our growing certitude that the world is fucked. We thought, okay, we need to kind of first of all secure ourselves. That's why we came ultra rural. We're like, there's just going to be increasing levels of chaos and upheaval, and I think the city we saw from COVID, it was just it's crazy. I was in LA for part of that, and it was disgusting to watch how people were behaving and how the city was reacting. And I mean, across the board, I think the regulations were wrong. I think that people's mindset on it was wrong. It just nothing seemed to work the way that I think it should have. I felt like we should have all been coming together, and
That's
it was
part of the reason I came to Canada.
Yeah,
I came to Canada during COVID.
You know, funnily enough, I did in a sense too. I ended up working with a Canadian employer, so I got whatever they call like a exception or a visa that let me go through the border even during COVID, and it was annoying to get. But I had a place in Montreal, and I didn't know how this was all going to play out, but I didn't like what I was seeing in the urban centers. I didn't like what I saw in New York. I definitely didn't like what I saw in LA, and in some of the other places that I had been. So we were resigned to move and become rural folks. And what we want to do is take her skill. Like, she's an expert in building like off-grid luxury, like, like resort type of places. And she's done this at, really, she has this amazing place in Folly, or in the Mojave Desert, and in Joshua Tree, called Folly Collection. And so she knows how to do this, and I know how to do a lot of the engineering and the smart tech, and I'm just really interested in it. So we decided we're going to build a template for like a ultra luxury, ultra high tech, like micro community here in Vermont. And we build it as a template, including like governance structure, like value systems, like everything that would relate to what we would want a community to be like. So that's why we got so much. Again, we have 543 acres, and we're trying to it's just going to be initially just for us and a select group of people who want to enjoy living in a very specific way. Like, we want all the technology, we want it to be AI forward, but my wife is focused on making sure none of it's visible. So you can't see any tech. It all has to be able to get out of your way. Like, if you don't want any SSIDs broadcast, you should just go say, I'm going off grid, and all the cameras shut down, the presence sensors, all of, like, it's just, you're in nature and you're only exposed to as much technology as you want to be, but you can have all the luxury and the intelligence gains and the assistance that you can imagine. So we're trying to do this in a way that allows us to control like everything end to end. So that means power, like on-site generation of power, having commercial backup systems. So we got like solar trees and EV infrastructure, and the brains of Balance is currently being upgraded. So I'm working on that, but I'm going to be adding like probably another 16 3090s. This not the most efficient from a power perspective, but you can do a lot of cool stuff with like 500 or 600 gigs of GPU RAM. So we're just trying to basically build a self-contained little world here that can interact with the rest of the world, but also can be entirely like closed off if there happen to be another lockdown or whatever is on the way, and where there's no dependence on anybody else. So food and and security, all of it here, not anything flashy, but doing it in a way that is super luxury. So while things are still normal, we can, whatever normal means, we can still monetize it by renting out, the places to people at, a nice price point where they get to really benefit from kind of escaping. And we got a lot of like writers that she's built one cabin already. It's already been really like it's like one of the highest rated cabins in all of her, like luxury cabins in all of Vermont, and she knows what she's doing really well. So it's pretty much booked constantly, and we get like a lot of really awesome people, and we'll go over there and bake stuff and bring it over food for them and whatnot. But we're really just trying to like figure out how to manage a situation like this. And so we've had more and more people that have moved on site. We recently moved our property manager on site, so now we're building constantly, and we're going to be putting together a little construction crew, with just buying more equipment and just building it out. But the goal is to develop a template that includes everything from like the engineering and infrastructure and governance to like the philosophy, so that you could take this concept and apply it to like an Amish community that wanted none of that AI, but could still replicate this type of approach, or just give sort of like I like prescriptive best practices and blueprints that say this is how you do this step by step. And we're going through that and figuring that out. And our goal is, after we get this template done, we're just going to kind of expand in geographically convenient ways. So the surrounding states, so everything should be like within like 4 or 5 miles. We just want to have like these little enclaves, that we can just travel to and enjoy while whatever happens, and that other people who want to invest and partner and, collaborate with us can also enjoy. It's really just about making sure she gets her bakery. She loves baking. She wants a justification for having her bakery. So like, it's like, we have to monetize this. So we built this entire community. We just want the things that we like. So, and we want a way to incorporate it into something that'll be hopefully durable and lasting for our kids and their kids.
One of the most important things, I think, and there's lots, right? But one of the most important things that struck me was the balance that you were talking about between the technology not being visible, right? And there's a dynamic there between, I think, you and your wife that was on display at the glamping show that I'd love to touch on briefly, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, I sounded like an engineering nerd, and she sounded awesome, because every time I learned the value of invisible technology from her, and it doesn't look like it if you look around this room. There is cables and wires and hard drives and GPU. Like, yes, that's my own little zone of insanity, but I love that, like, her principles on this. It is really nice to spend the extra time and make sure that your speaker's embedded into a wall, so you're just seeing like the wood, and so that when you don't see the cameras that are acting as a security system, so that when you need something, it knows it automatically, because a presence sensor detected that you went from 6'2" to lying on the ground, and it has the sort of inference capabilities and context awareness to know that because it's 15 degrees below zero right now, you probably are not going to be lying down in the snow for more than 30 seconds, and you're 80 years old. We probably need to send somebody to make sure you're okay. Like, you want that invisible technology that's positively impacting things. She's the one that taught me about the importance of it. And I thought that was crazy, because I love seeing technology, because I'm into it. But then once I saw what it felt like when things happen magically, and just they didn't even have to get out of your way. They were never in your way in the first place. It's awesome. It really is something great. And it lets you interact with nature in a way that feels super authentic, where at the snap of a finger, you can almost talk anywhere, and a speaker is invisibly placed that will pick up what you're saying and then can relay it back into the mother system, like the mothership, and dispatch actions. That's at least what we're going for, which is why I've been spending a lot of time before the winter. Didn't get as far as I wanted to, but running fiber everywhere so that I could just have, like, in the middle of the cow pasture, like it's all over the place, trenched, so that I can have connectivity at any point in time that I want. And so you never are truly unsafe or unconnected, but you can feel like everything is completely like natural.
Do you have any data on this, Scott, of tech being invisible, or how people feel about it? Or
we really haven't got into the weeds on that, but I was taking some notes as Ari was talking, because I think that is really an important consideration.
Crazy guy. Check. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that idea, just intuitively to me, makes sense. Where, because people still, when they come there, they want They want things to go smoothly. Part of it's still an outdoor experience. They still want to have that. And so if it's invisible to them, but yet makes their stay better, I think that's a home run.
That's exactly what we're shooting for. I don't have data on it except for the feedback from the guests, and it's been glowing. I bet we've done some alpha testing with like the new AI powered assistants, and we have like one sort of model home that we test this stuff out at, and we've had to do a lot of refinement. But like first we had like TVs that would come out of the floor, and like nope, that's junk, that's garbage. You want like eventually it's okay, how about a screen that projects something so you don't see it? Like that's where we kind of end up migrating to, but then that comes with its own challenges, and like so you're just constantly trying to figure out what's the right balance between everything that you're trying to do. Ultimately we're always trying to push it, just intuitively, like you said, it just feels right when you don't have to see it but you can take advantage of it. It's almost like having like Tony Stark, right? Like he could walk around like a human at any moment that if he needed to, he could just snap his fingers and he's got this fucking super powered armor on. He's flying around. He's shooting, repulsor beams and whatnot. Like, I think that's what, in some weird sense, that's what we're kind of trying to go for, is we just want it should be ready to go, but you don't even see it until you need it.
Scott will give you the data. He'll trade you for if the shit hits the fan, he can come have a cabin.
Yeah, but I don't know how much data we're gonna need when we're trying to survive like human hordes, like bum rushing the show. But if you can wield an axe or shoot a gun, you're very welcome.
I mean, it's just Scott. I'm not leaving Canada. I prefer Canada in that situation. I think we'll find out.
I think that Canada's an interesting place. I wonder how they will do when things get really chaotic. I imagine they'll come together probably better than a lot of the urban areas in America. I
think so.
I feel
like we have a lot of fucking land we can just go north to.
Yeah,
so.
It's chilly there, but yeah, if you can handle it, it's probably a pretty safe haven. That's why we're in Vermont, man. This is like, other than really, 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 really cold weather, not a lot happens here. You don't get a lot of earthquakes. You'd have to really want to go out of your way to fuck somebody over here. Like you got to go right now. You'd have to go through 3.5 feet of snow to rob. Like if you can make it up here and actually take something away, God bless you. Like take the TV if you can go through that because we have to plow every day. It's Thunderdome, but that's part of the benefit of being off grid like in this way, is that you learn how to do things that other people don't know how to do. And I think this goes for a lot of us in the Northeast region. Like you really have to be tough, or you have to develop skills that'll allow you to simulate toughness, unless you're in like obviously a more of a city environment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a city, but I want to get out of it. Like I have a loose plan to get out of it. Like I only think there's 20% chance I'm going to need to get out of it, of the city up here. I think it's probably higher in the States in some places. But I have a plan. Like I have a plan. If that percentage goes up higher, I will develop a much more comprehensive plan. But at least, so we'll see.
I think planning. I think that planning is really tough to do, because that's how I used to think about it. But then when I saw how bad COVID, like the effects were so brutal, and just the way that everything worked, I was like, I don't think I'm going to have luxury. In Canada, I could see that being very different. But here, it's like you got to already be there, because I think things can change very fast, and then everybody will be trying to do what you do. We've already gotten offers for our property that were like more than 3 times what we paid for it, and that is crazy. Like we only moved in like 4.5, 5 years ago. It is when things get crazy, everybody wants to make a move. So I kind of want to already be ready to go. Like I've got the commercial generator, I've got thousands of gallons of propane, I've got the solar and the this and the that. Maybe I never need it, but it's fun, and I get to learn a bunch of skills. It keeps me generally healthy, because I think gyms are boring as shit. So I have to go out and chop logs. That's fun exercise, hiking up and down. It's a way of keeping young, learning skills you need. And best case scenario, you never need those things, but it got you healthier and was really fun to do. Worst case scenario, you're ready and almost everybody else isn't, which would really make you a target. But again, in a place that's so out of the way, it's like, you're like, all right, fucking let them live. Let's go. Well, the zombie hordes will go to an easy, like lower lying land. So yeah, that's our strategy. Already bug out so we don't have to bug out.
What were you going to say, Scott?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it that mentality happens too when you live in a rural area.
Hmm.
It's like you do certain things. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, you learn you you might learn how to hunt. You learn how to grow things. Like you said, handle an axe and put together a bug out bag. So,
Yeah.
um,
You just do.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, I have the bug out bags. I have all that. My girlfriend's not as on board as it appears your wife is, Ari. With so she's not like she thinks I'm a little crazy. We'll see. Hopefully that like I feel like I want her to be right, but also like I hope that but like bug out bags and things like that. But I'm in the city, so like I'm like doing what I can. Like I'm gonna order a nice new hydroponic garden that grows 88 like a little bit of food, right? Like
mhm.
that's what I can do. Like I don't have a massive backyard of 536 acres because my girlfriend has to go to work every day at a hospital. So like we can't move all the way out there, right? So
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the city, then I think that your best move is either buy some fractional ownership in something or have an RV, like a vacation RV that's got everything you need in it and that you learn to maintain and keep up so that you don't have to use third parties, for the most part. Like I think that's the best reasonable strategy that somebody in a city can have. When I lived in the city, I had this ridiculous RV. It was like bulletproof and had thermal cameras. I took an Earth Roamer, which is like an F550.
yep,
That
yep,
thing
yep. I
was
know what
like,
you're talking
I
about.
love this thing. Like I was constantly adding all kinds of wacky stuff to it. I had tons of computers in it and stuff like that, and like gun safes and whatever. It was the best I could do at the time because I couldn't leave the city because kids were going to school and whatever, and we just were sort of integrated there. But yeah, I think for me now, I don't know. I like the slight extra calm that comes with knowing I'm like a couple steps, or actually at this point, many steps ahead of where I was
yeah.
before, and so I'm already like here. Like when I talk to people around here when COVID hit, I didn't talk. This was after the fact. They like barely knew what happened here. People are already so separated. They're like just milking their cows and shipping the eggs, and like things didn't change for the people that were here nearly so much. Like you knew COVID was going on in LA. There was like you had to like pass like armed like Marines to get in and out of LA at various times when it was first kicking. It was like weird things were happening that I don't know if they were legal or not, but they were happening, and it was very different story in the rural areas, or like, well, I won't speak for other for these areas up here as people described to me, and that felt like a smarter approach, not even smarter, just a safer approach because they were so spread out already. There was no distancing because our nearest neighbor is 2.5 miles away. That's not even abnormal. Like it's just like there's not a lot of people around here to suffer where you have to worry about a lot of the same kinds of challenges. So yeah, it just makes me feel a little bit more confident, but I don't know, man. Like it remains to be seen what the next like major tipping point or chaotic event is going to look like. I mean, if it was biological, chemical, nuclear, cyber, or social, I don't know, alien attack, whatever. Take your pick. Whatever is coming, if it's something is coming, it feels very unpredictable. So you kind of also have to like live the way you want to live to enjoy like
Well,
what
that's
you.
what I'm doing. Like I know where I'm gonna go outside the city if I need to get there. Like I
Yeah.
have a place, but like it is, you do your best you can. So what do you do if you're a RV park glamping resort owner, campground owner in this kind of uncertain future? How do
I
you prepare your business?
I think you're probably in a great business already. Like that's an area we want to expand into. I think that that's why I was like kind of questioning what you were saying from the perspective of the short term. Like I think when chaos hits, again, in whatever form it hits, if it's remotely like some kind of lockdowns or massive unrest, or whatever, I think like mobility, like these RV parks, glamping, I think is going to go through the roof. We're expanding to open up a luxury RV like park at the other end of our property. Like we're going to be doing the luxury like housing stuff up here, park at the other end, precisely because that is such good business. The guys who I know have one of these places down in Florida. They have a really luxury RV park. I think it's got a couple hundred slots. And I mean, they just printed cash. I mean, they're talking about like 40, $50 million during COVID. Like it was wild what their P&L looked like. My buddy was involved with them, and he like was showing me some of this data, and I'm now like collaborating with them. was crazy how good that COVID was. I mean, everybody's like rushing to get away, and you go to these places and you basically bring your home with you and park. And so you had your basic infrastructure, but you also had your little zone of danger. Like you were like, okay, I'm good in my own home, and if shit goes down here, I'll just drive away. That is, I expect that to be as it was before. I sold my Earth Roamer for, it was really, it was great to be able to sell it. When I sold it, I know a lot of that was because of COVID. People were just like, oh, we don't want to have to figure out how to like bulletproof an RV, or like, why would somebody do that in a normal time? I just like to try things out. I was like, oh, it's cool, I could do this. Like I did it beforehand as just a bumbling thing, and it turned out like I accidentally ended up having something that was very attractive to a lot of buyers at that point. So I suspect that if you own an RV park, like if anything, just sort of like fortify your infrastructure so that when chaos does occur, you're like able to capitalize on that. Like say, hey, listen, come here. We've got off-grid power. If the electricity fails, we got 10,000 gallons of propane, and we got commercial generators. And we got solar. We got our own food services, and growing our own stuff. So we can give you everything that you need here. Sewage and water, it's all handled. So yeah, it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg, but you'll live. Like I think it's a strong argument for folks in that industry to make. And
Hey, you lost video, but we can still hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my computer just crashed. Power Toys ran into an issue. Sorry. Yeah, I was much late. But anyway, yeah, I really do think that is going to be the key. Is just being ready for. I'll switch over to this other camera. Is being ready for what the future is going to hold. And I think the future for people who run these type of businesses is going to be really, really strong, where for most people, I think it's going to be hugely problematic. So like I say, stay in your business, don't sell now. Like the value will go up. Very confident in that.
I'll talk to Scott about this on our call tomorrow. We're going to wrap up here in a sec, Scott, anyway.
I guess
I'll talk to Scott about this on the call tomorrow, and then we'll see if we can vet it, and maybe we'll present it if Scott agrees with me and can refine it in January. We'll do a show. I'll send it all to you. All right, I think that's a pretty good show. Like it was a little bit like off kilter from outdoor hospitality for a minute there, but that's okay. Like these things
our shows are never going to be hospitality or like
fine.
We're just gonna like doomsday our way into 2026, and I'm okay with that. I like these open conversations, and if it happens to touch on hospitality, cool.
It will, like, because it'll all end up like relating in some way to something that somebody needs help with and provides value with, and that's the whole goal, right?
Awesome.
Like start a conversation, start a thought process. Scott, any final thoughts before you go?
Nope. Just we always try to bring it back around. It sneaks in, even if we get way off. It happens. Because hey, maybe it's the places like yours, Ari, that become the micro communities. The campgrounds,
they will,
which would be perfect in some respects. They have infrastructure and so on. So
that's the plan.
The shit hits the fan. We're all going to Ari's.
Everybody head over here.
What are you doing for Christmas, Scott? What do you got plans for Christmas?
I'm not doing anything. We're staying close to home as we always do, and that's wonderful.
I like it.
Ari, final thoughts, and you doing anything fun for Christmas, or?
I think my version of fun is identical to Scott's. Like I don't want to go anywhere. I love being here. I just want to like go snowboarding with my son and take my daughter out hiking, and my wife and I will be on the ATVs, and we're gonna just keep building. We're redoing a shower, and just living life. Like daily life is like a vacation to me here because it's so much.
Yep.
So I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to. But as I mentioned earlier, like I have a surprisingly high amount of work to do for December, shockingly. So I think I'll be doing a lot of work this holiday season, but yeah, I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time with the family too. So that's all I could ever ask for.
Yeah, these 2 weeks for me are like I can get like 3 years worth of work done in these 2 weeks because nobody bothers me.
Normally, right? It's these damn clients and their need and my selfish desire to keep making money. But yeah, definitely make sure.
I like it. I'm having fun. You're having fun, Ari. Scott, you're having fun with your data. Like we're all having fun. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Outwired. It's our last one of 2025. We will see you in 2026. I don't know what the date is, but you guys figured out whatever that first Wednesday is out in January. We'll be back. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to all of you. If you're looking for some entertainment over the holidays, We released an AI generated Christmas album for the outdoor hospitality industry. It's on Spotify and Apple Music called Fully Booked for Christmas. Look it up under Insider Perks. Grandma got run over by a golf cart. All I want for Christmas is a 5-star review. All kinds of fun stuff. So see you guys later. Merry Christmas.
Take care, guys.
Yes.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.